Welcome to my awesome Friday evening. You're listening to me, Heidi, Hollis, the Outlander. So welcome to the show, everybody. Oh, this is going to be a lot of fun tonight. You guys, you know, sometimes I get these really interesting people on, and you're going to really enjoy this one tonight. I am going to tell you what this show is about, because if you are new to me, you need to be informed. This show is about bringing outlandish and interesting topics to the forefront, from aliens, angels, ghosts, demons, holy encounters, shadow people, to Bigfoot, to the outlandish. I always say, if it's weird, we're here, and now you are too, so you are among friends. If you do not know who I am, well, how dare you? But when it comes to the outlandish, personally, I'm someone who has been there, seen that, experienced it, freaked out, found some answers, wrote about it, got over it, and now I'm hoping to help others do the same darn thing and understand this kooky, fun, freaky world of ours. I dare you to go to my main website. I don't even know if my parents have seen it in recent years. HeidiHollis.com. You're going to find things there that are just mind-blowing. And I have a YouTube channel, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff is up there. You can find me on Facebook and Twitter. Just put a 1, so @1 Heidi Hollis, literally the number 1, and you will find me. And I want to tell you guys how you can hear this program, because I think it's pretty darn awesome. And honestly, most of you guys do take advantage of the Inception Radio Network app. What is that? Well, it's just an app. You can hear the show live. You can hear my recorded shows and, yeah, all that good stuff. This is considered a live broadcast show. People say, oh, your podcast? I'm like, no, it's considered live broadcast. We just happen to record it so you can listen to it later, too. So isn't that fantastic? And most of you do seem to listen through the app, but we've got, we're on iHeart. We're everywhere. We're everywhere. So you can check us out so many different ways. And probably the easiest way to listen to us, if you're old school especially, or if your internet sucks, you can just dial a number and just listen. Put it on speakerphone. That is 712-770-8888. And I always welcome you guys to call into the show, which is 1-888-919-2355, or you can Skype your comments and questions to Inception Radio Network. But again, I realize that most of you guys do not listen to this show live, which is fine. I forgive you. So so you might not hear a whole lot of calls that come in live, because people like to listen on their own darn time, which is fine, again. So anywho, and you guys got to go into the Inception Radio Network chat room. That is IRNchat.com. And there's some folks in there right now, and I see Bean, I see Bonnie, MJ, that's a stranger if I ever heard a name. He's the producer, okay? So that's really him. So yeah, it's, we got a lot of different things going on here at Inception Radio Network, and my goodness, I don't know if there's any orifice they have not reached into. Okay, that was bad. Oh God, look, I got a dry spot. So anyways, tonight, because I do have 2 guests joining me, we're going to forego the Outlandish Corner, and that is where I answer your emails and your comments and whatnot to whatever it is that you're experiencing out there, out of the ordinary, that I lend some level-headed advice to without being a psychic or a guru. But I do sprinkle some Jesus on it, which is, that's a given. So anywho, you can write me with your experiences. I don't care what it is. If Bigfoot is going through your trash every night and you're just sick of it, we'll come up with some Bigfoot repellent spray. I don't know, but we'll think of something, and we'll do it together. Shadow people, ghosts, aliens, anything and everything out of the ordinary. Just write me at DAS, Outlander @gmail.com. or go to my Facebook page at one Heidi Hollis. Put a 1 in front of my name, and I will get down to it groovy, and I will address it. So, anyways, I am going to get on to introducing who my guests will be this evening. Kenneth and Farah Rose Deel. They are a rare husband and wife team with a combined 80 plus years. They are both 150 years old. I'm just kidding. Years actual experience and related studies in spiritual warfare counselors, field investigators, educators, Catholic apologists, and evangelists, or as the mainstream public refers to them as religious demonologists, taking on all cases of infestation, oppression, and possession from investigation phase to the close of the case. Everybody, round of applause for Kenneth and Farah Deel. Come aboard, guys. How the heck are you two doing this evening?
Freezing our frigid little toesies off.
Oh, it's cold where you're at, huh?
12 degrees, okay? At least we're not getting the snow.
Wow. Where are you at?
We're not in the Bible Belt. We are in the Bible Buckle. Springfield, Missouri.
Springfield. Nice.
Yeah, we're in the city of the United States that has the most number of churches per capita than anywhere in the world.
Wow. An infestation? I'm just kidding.
Total.
That's cool. I mean, hey.
That's churches during the week to mass.
My goodness.
Yes, that's not all of our parishes, but it's kind of funny that, they're all 5 minutes from us.
Wow, my goodness. Yep. So you two have both been dabbling in this stuff for a long time. Has it always been as a team?
That was only since we met each other, and immediately we started talking about that topic, which is refreshing because you just can't talk to anybody about it, especially a beautiful woman.
So how long ago did you join forces, I should ask?
8 years ago.
8, you said?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. So, well, gosh, what are the odds of that you two, cross paths? I mean, didn't you cover one half of the state and she had the other? And what, you just met and go, this is meant to be? How'd this happen?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Actually, I covered New Mexico, California, Washington, Texas, and Michigan before meeting him. And he was all over the place. He was originally from St. Louis, and we ended up meeting on one of those quirky little Christian dating sites accidentally looking for a friend because we were bored. It was Halloween, and, it was just one of those things. And it's like Kismet. He couldn't shut up, and I couldn't stop listening, and here I am.
Wow, what are the odds of that? That's mind blowing. I meet so many people that are into these topics, and it's a lonely, drudging, difficult thing to do because they're always working it alone. The wife doesn't get it, or the husband doesn't get this, and that's kind of cool that you two have merged the way that you have. That's awesome.
It's bizarre, Heidi. It's really bizarre. The majority of people that we meet, especially the members of the opposite sex, have difficulty, in relationships and relating to people. And it's very, very difficult to be able to invest in so many other people beside yourselves and then still have something left for your family and your main relationship, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So, Ken meeting me, he couldn't believe that I been through the stuff. He was, just like, what? And I was like, oh yeah, you done that? Oh boy.
Wow.
Yeah, it was almost like we both wrote the same Exorcist movie, except in different languages. So we were like comparing notes going, yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Whatever.
Well, hold on. Do you guys step on each other's toes? Because if you're both used to being the solo kind of center of attention, does one seem to take over versus the other? I mean, was that hard to get used to? Like, hey, I do that.
It's kind of like, okay, I should let Ken talk for a little bit, but I think it's easier to understand that for whatever reason, Heidi, especially, how you do radio, you understand that there's give and take. Well,
right.
we both can't specify, okay, well, I'm going to take the land. I'm going to go, check out the property. Okay, well, I'm going to go into the attic. We both have areas of expertise where we're just like little pointers. It's like we're little dogs that you turn loose on the birds. And it's like, I might take the tail end, he'll take the front, or I'm going to stick right in the middle of the pack and he's going to hop up in the tree. We both are like pointers when we're set in a place or with people. So we both have our ways of just going to where the need is to find out what's going on. And I think that pretty much sums it up. What do you think, Ken?
Yep.
I have a feeling this is how the evening's going to roll.
And I'm supposed to be the one that's sick and laying in bed, okay? What's up with that? What's up with that?
My goodness. So okay. What are your different expertise?
Are you visualizing Ken with his little ponytail, like a little pointer out in the field, and his ponytail blowing in the wind? Oh my gosh. Okay.
So what's your specialty, Ken? What is it that you seem to excel at when you have these demon-like cases coming at you?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, even on the other things that we do, like art, we're even artists, but we're different artists. So we complement each other with the things I do or can do. And music, it's like, we're both singers, but I guess that brings to the broadcast voice too. And that, how the difference between men and women is men will like rely on a gut feeling, or they'll use a logical choice, and they on that part, because we go in like a police investigation, that will always be there. We both do the thing where we rely and we don't have pre-canned questions when we interview people, for example, and the reason is because one question gives to another. Sometimes it comes from an impression of something you see, something you hear, but you just go with the flow, you keep going. And then when that one question prompts the other one, we ask a question, we get at the truth quicker. If I just did pre-canned questions, I'd be sitting there all day like that guy, with the litmus test. And, I'm sure it would be really boring, like being an IRS auditor. But it's kind of like the crime scene investigation. Let's ask questions that are more relevant to the person, the case, and then when you're trying to get at the truth, you don't ask the pre-canned stuff just because you want to fill out your paperwork and go home. And so I guess the difference between men and women, logical side, you can say, I get some sort of, kind of a backdrop of going to place and making a personal reference. I'm trying to think of something. How much?
Okay, let me see if I can help you here, honey. Yeah. All right, Heidi, let's just take
besides intuitive and whatever, it's like
a sample visitation of reference, from one of the local teams or something that most of the time, Heidi, sad but true, we are called in because lots of solutions have been tried and nothing's been working, and the people are kind of like dogs chasing their tails. They're just like, we don't know what's going on. We're trying to figure out what's going on. Nothing's working, et cetera, come out and help us. So after we start with an initial intake, and Ken's usually pretty good at that on the phone. I'm really not one for initial intakes because I don't want to talk to people. I want to jump in their face so I can see and read and feel what's going on right then and there, because sometimes, a lot of times when you get people on the phone, they are very, very wonderful charmers, and they can really make you believe that the sun's out and the temperature is fine, and hop in your bikini and go in your backyard, nobody's looking, and you find out the neighbors are watching, it's snowing, and you're an idiot.
Right. So, I hear you. They could paint a nice picture for you, and it's like, that's not true. So are you telling me that you have a psychic like intuition?
No.
Okay. You're talking about your gut, the feel, the vibe.
I'm the little hound he has on a leash. I'm a bloodhound, and
looking for the truth.
I can smell it without stepping in it. Let me just put it that way.
Okay, the dark crap.
Yeah, basically, exactly. It has a smell, it has a footprint, and where Ken is more the logical reasoning type, tearing away, the structure of a story or what's happened. I'm heading right to the heart of the matter because we want to get people to a place of peace as soon as possible, and we don't want to sit there and waste anybody's time. Usually they're in pain and they're not sleeping and they're
So how are you finding these people? How are they getting themselves into the trouble that you're finding most often? Like, how are they opening themselves up?
Usually occult, magic, trying to practice something and dabble with things that they just don't quite understand. Right. A couple people have actually been cursed by others, and we're just kind of like, what did I do to deserve this? Others, I think the majority of it is basically they're playing with things they shouldn't play with. They're inviting spirits in. We have such a sad, strange fascination with inviting anything that's supernatural. If it's a cockroach that's moving around on a potato chip bag and they think it's a spirit, they're running in the kitchen going, "Oh, give me a sign you're there." No. Shut your mouth and stop playing with it. It's a cockroach. Kill it.
Yeah. I am finding that people love to be scared. They love to dabble in this stuff and just take a peek, like they're bored with this reality and they just want something else to reach in at them. And, darkness seems pretty easy to reach into. I'm like, oh my gosh, why can't you look more to the light? It's like, God's not going to dance a jig for you, to entertain you, but the devil might. Something evil may come along, but why is that so inviting to people? Why do you think that is?
Morbid curiosity.
Yeah.
Also, that when MTV was big, everybody wanted that MTV experience. So I made a lot of money and friends, etc., in the '80s because we delivered what they wanted. And maybe before that, or halfway through the '90s, it started tapering off that desire because when they watched all these, top 20 MTV videos, and most of them were concerts, and they were so stereotyped. You always, show it to drummer, the hair bands. He was twirling his drumsticks and looking at the camera, sticking his tongue out sometimes. Then you get that Steve Vai licking the guitar neck. You know what I mean? So now we have haunted stories that make people, I want some of that. This is exciting. So it's like they're porn.
I think it's sad. It's really sad. I have 6 books published. Only 2 of them are on dark topics, and that is all I get called about. I'm like, come on now. I started to bargain with some of these media people. Like, okay, you want me to talk about the demons? Well, I'm going to talk about my Jesus book first, and then we'll get into the demons. It's sad, but and then they're like, dang it, really? Do we have to? I'm like, yeah, because I'm really needing to talk about Jesus tonight. So, I mean, but it's mind-blowing, but it's sad to me that is, people love to be scared. I just, I get it, but then I don't want to get it.
I think it goes beyond being scared. I think that there is, I think that our primitive desire just to be recognized and heard. And in the world we live in today, Heidi, we go for many years, even unnoticed by our parents, unpet, unloved, pawned off. In our adolescent years when we need attention so desperately, we go unpet, unloved, kind of misplaced. And then we, get into our 20s and into relationships, loose relationships. And we're still longing just to be recognized for who we really, truly are as, a gift. God created us special to be a gift. And we can't realize that because we don't even know that. So we go looking for love in all the wrong places, at haunted houses and cemeteries and magic and palm reading and, Dungeons and Dragons. We look for that essential part of ourselves that's just going to wake up if just the magic would happen. Somebody would recognize us for who we truly are, and this has got to be it. And I think that's where the love of being scared comes in because, we want that essential, I can't even describe it in one word, but it is definitely a sensate, emotion-driven, here I am.
It's like acceptance, even.
Yeah.
An acceptance by the dark side. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like they belong. They belong.
Adrenaline, I guess it's kind of like a drug.
Well, no,
Why does
because I
somebody
used to
like
repossess
skydive or
cars, and I love
bungee jump or
adrenaline.
something?
That's
My goodness.
Which is from that, I guess. Run, I don't know.
I had the wonderful opportunity. I got to chat with you with a friend of mine who is Catholic. I'm not Catholic, and I wanted to understand a bit of your background as far as, demonologists are usually priests. How did you two come about to have the backing that you do of the church? Nobody jump at that one, huh?
Well, it's like, I'm just thinking about the first part of the statement. Actually, demonologists aren't priests. And in our faith, basically the word demonologist is really...
you know what? I'm thinking along the lines of exorcist. My apologies. But yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes.
And the only PhD, because there is no real PhD or any course in demonology, although there's tons of people offering them out there, is acquaintance of ours, William Bradshaw, who's a really wonderful guy to talk to. He's out of St. Louis. He's got a PhD, and he was actually sent. He's a Lutheran pastor. He was actually sent overseas to that prestigious university. It wasn't Cornwall. It was in England, and that's where he got his PhD. So in calling ourselves a demonologist, Heidi, that is the sum total of our experiences, and it is not a title conferred on us by our church. If anything, we are looked on as our church as spiritual warfare counselors.
Right. I know that you had some kind of like backing by a church. I didn't know what it was called. Pardon me, I don't recall what it is. But how did you go about getting that kind of backing to do what you guys do? Because you do go in the name of the Catholic Church to doing what you do, correct?
Actually, what we do is we actually go and do what we do as Catholics. Because we are not, even though we are professed Franciscans, we are not ordained ministers. We are not nuns. So we don't go there and say, we have the full backing of the Catholic Church. No, we go as Catholics. What we do is we do our own ministry on our own. And if we need Catholic help, we call Catholic priests, Catholic nuns to come and help us.
Okay, so they are somebody that you confer with and counsel in connection to what you do.
Yes. Okay. Well, it's essential because we can only go so far, and we can't go where exorcists can go. We do not have that kind of authority.
In other words, the Roman ritual, that kind of thing. I mean, but you already know that. That's kind of a taboo if somebody does the job of a priest who's laity. Even a brother or a sister. It's definitely a no-no in any true Catholic church. I mean, there's a lot with these kind of prefixes: old, new, modern.
Did you study with somebody to get the position that you do and the authority that you do have as demonologists and the know-how? How did you both gather the knowledge on these topics?
It's the conglomerate of validation from the peers and mentors.
You studied with your father. You've got a heck of a library.
We have this huge family. It had a bunch of priests and nuns in it. The Bishop of St. Louis, back when my mother and father were just early 20s, married them at the Cathedral in St. Louis. And, they were wondering if I should be a priest. So I went on some retreats with my mom's Monsignor cousin. And my dad, apparitions was another one, and he loves his politics. But demonology, spiritual warfare, and that stuff, he did that until was in about third grade, and then I guess they backed off of it because it started affecting the family. And that was a primer, but Dad just kept reading about it and researching, but he did not do the field work ever since that third grade thing happened where he and Mom bowed out of it. And so he accumulated all that. But over the years, it was just a personal interest because guess what? When they were playing Ouija boards in the 60s, and I was not in the third grade in the 60s, I don't think, they threw something in with that. And when they went to cases and they didn't pray when they got home to get it off them like you do to break a curse, I think they brought something back because of the torments that I had as a child. And they gave me a St. Benedict medal, and, didn't say this is going to protect you from demons or anything like that, but I never really had them get closer than about 3 feet. But
so it was all in the family. That's wild.
Yeah, they're telling I'm, I'm just having waking nightmares, and they call them night terrors and that sort of thing. Yeah, and that went on for such a long time, and I still, when I saw that scene in that movie, The Conjuring, for example, and then that girl sits up in bed and her eyes are frozen on the back door. That was me. And remember you were saying at the very beginning of the show, it does sound like a lot of people initially were victims. Yeah. But we came to the Catholic, I guess, the background. My dad homeschooled us on the Catechism and those type of things to solidify it. And then we went over to my aunt's house, which was my grandmother's sisters, and they were like nuns. They didn't join a convent for some reason, but they took us to church and told us stories of the saints. Then I'd mow my grandpa's lawn, and he'd tell me stories, and it's like, good grief, couldn't escape it. I didn't.
So the conversation was alive and well in the family. Farah, how did you come about gaining your knowledge on this and getting started?
The thing, Heidi, is that, I didn't realize that I never called myself a demonologist until I met Ken. No idea that was my specialty, but I'm a demon magnet for whatever reason. It's like, and I say that jokingly and now. Yeah, exactly. There is no training for what I went through. I experienced. I lived with a serial murderer. I survived. I didn't even know it until afterwards. It was really bizarre. It had very similar. Yeah, it was really, really strange. You're hanging out with this guy because your boyfriend jilts you, so you decide to get a job together, and then you find out later after you move away because you're kind of like, it was just really ridiculous, Heidi.
Ridiculous, and people are terrified of that story. She was like, what was it? Tell her that, I guess that you should share that.
Can we name names? Who was this? It's not Jeffrey Dahmer.
No, it wasn't Jeffrey Dahmer. No, it wasn't Jeffrey
Dahmer. You're the wrong,
His first name, I'm not going to say his last name to protect the innocent, because he was returned to the institution and he was returned to his meds. His first name.
Possessed, too.
Yeah,
I believe it.
Seriously possessed.
You got to tell that story only because it's relevant to the show topics mostly. But you got to tell
being exposed to ugly black things, shadow people, shadow animals, shadow beings since as far back as I can remember, upon waking and sleeping with lights and being terrorized as a child, went on to trying to help other kids in school that were terrorized and trying to help them deal with it and help them be brave when they went to bed. And parents, for the most part, including mine, you're over imaginative, you're working yourself up, you just want attention, on and on. And, come to find out, there probably were a lot of reasons we had visitors and investigators in our house. That's what I call them, because they were lower level demons. Obviously not strong enough to do anything to hurt me, but obviously enough to frighten the hell out of me.
Gotcha.
Experiences in childhood went to trying to help other kids. And there's a lot of kids I tried to help get away from their demons. And I think a big one was getting away from a lot of the serious heavy metal music to the scrying and seances and the death metal, the really heavy duty stuff, to where I was, I ended up in a city in the Midwest because I had run away with a man I fell in love with. And my mom, of course, disinherited me, and she calls me and she's like, no, you're cut out of the will. And it's like, oh, that's a joy. I want to live, on a ranch with horses in the middle of nowhere. No, I'm a city girl. So long story short, he dumps me. I am hanging out with my girlfriend, who is like going to New Mexico, or not New Mexico, but Mexico, because she's going to be selling timeshares, Heidi. Lucky her. Boy. These are my friends, you can check in with them. They'll help you out, keep an eye on you. One of them, was a friend of a friend, and was like, look, I know you need a job and everything. I'm kind of done with this job. Why don't we go apply for it together? It was like a maintenance job kind of thing. So we shared an apartment. And didn't know that this, I was like showing houses or condos and stuff like that. You know how that is.
We're coming up on our first break here in about 30 seconds, so keep going.
Okay, well, 30 seconds. Long story short, this is really long. Basically, I'm going to leave them with a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
The guy was giving me stolen property, and I didn't know it.
Oh.
The guy was following me in the middle of the night, and I didn't know it. How did I know? Because I saw shadows, and I didn't know it was him. Till one night, in the middle of the night, I woke up, and he's on his tiptoes of his fingers and his knees, and he is slinking along the wall, and his head is turned at this bizarre angle, like it's all ripped up. Yeah.
Wow.
In the doorway of my bedroom.
Okay, we've got to get to our break. You guys, we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to me, Heidi, Hollis, the Outlander. Remembering, always if it's weird, we're here. We're giving you advice and insight on outlandish topics. Phone lines are always open, 1-888-919-2355. But I know most of you guys are listening to the IRN app, so that is just fine and dandy. We have Ken and Farah Deel, the real deal, as they're better known as, and we are talking about their demonology expertise. And oh my goodness, they are the real deal. So how convenient to get into that last name, huh, Farah?
I couldn't have looked in the Sears and Roebuck catalog and said, who shall I marry since I chase ghosts, but my specialty is demons.
Goodness. And you're known as religious demonologist, real deal. Again, see, RD. Okay.
That definition is very important for people to understand, is that, we come from a Christocentric place, that we accept everybody right where they're at, as they're at, and help them the best that we can get to a place of peace. And that the only peace that we know of is Christ.
Yeah. So we are not afraid to talk about Jesus on this show, because I think he comes up every show. I don't care what I'm talking about. There's no way I would be doing any of what I'm doing.
Cheers. Cheers. There are so many reasons to celebrate. With over 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers to choose from, Total Wine & More has the perfect one for you and your best friends and your coworkers and your siblings and your partner and your neighbors and even your parents. Happy celebrating. Cheers from your friends at Total Wine & More.
To raise a glass, to make a toast, to just say cheers. You're going to need supplies. Total Wine & More is your holiday headquarters for everything you need to plan the perfect celebration. With new bottle buster deals every week and expert staff to help, Total Wine & More makes it easy. This week, get an extra special price on 750 milliliter Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. Find more details at TotalWine.com. Total Wine & More, your holiday headquarters for gifting and entertaining. See store for details.
Had I not had the encounters I had with him, I would not have had the nerve to take a step forward. So everything is because of him. So I get it. I totally get it. There's a question in the chat room. Bonnie is asking, do they protect themselves when doing this? And if they do, how do they do it?
Well, that's a really good question. Do you want me to start, or you want me to start, honey?
I'll start, and you can finish up, so to speak.
All right.
Yeah, we have a daily amount of practices. When it was a little bit of trial and error, especially the severe cases, especially when they're back to back, sometimes you have to step it up. And the default for us is, Catholic. Mass every day. I go about 5 times a week, including Sundays, when I can, which is most of the time. Because I drop my daughter off at school, and then I go to Mass right after that. Then I come home and I work. Now we do the daily rosary. I know when I was younger, I noticed how the rosary does seem to bring about a certain peace in the house, less, arguing when there otherwise should be.
I see.
Those type of things. But it's definitely, Padre Pio called it one of the most powerful weapons in spiritual warfare. And
doing the rosary. Okay.
Yeah, and specific prayers. I'll go to the medals first. I'll leave that part with Farah on the medals. Specific prayers is prayers that when we go to a place, we say prayers before for protection, and other prayers.
Is there ones in particular that you use?
Yeah, the head prayer protection. and breaking curses prayers relating
which
to after
are on
relief.
our website.
Yeah, which are on our website.
Which site? Which one?
Thank you.
It?
TheRealDeals.com, which
one word
correctly right now.
And it's got to be real, like the camera, film, REEL, because we're not REAL. We're not real mayonnaise. We're real.
Okay.
Put a mayonnaise jar for.
Oh, that's wrong.
So it's therealdeals.com.
Yes,
yeah.
they'll find the
link.
They'll find the protection prayers right there because we have a number of prayers, and we always refer those to people right away because the power of prayer can never be understated.
I put that on the books a lot whenever people ask me to sign them because that's one of the things that is definitely concrete. It's like most of the time people just aren't praying enough, and that's it.
Yeah.
But got to do it every day. And I was so refreshed when I ran into Father Chad Riverger, and well, we knew from him earlier, but not knew him personally. 2015, he came here to speak, and we helped set it up, and we recorded on video, and we put it online, and we met him. And he said there that, and he said earlier, I think in one of his other things, but he repeated it, he pretty much had to draft his own prayer because he, as an exorcist, an ordained priest, he was getting retaliation strikes. You know, you're doing an exorcism and that sort of thing, and you go back to your office, you find your computer won't boot. You know, this series of unfortunate events that some people might call are actually, you know, symptoms of a curse, and they hit people differently. Some people get hit with physical ailments. They'll get like a series of kidney stones or get fibromyalgia. That doesn't go away. They don't get rid of that when they get that far. Or in this case, if it's financial, where they can hurt you more. They'll mess with your electronics or something, or they'll just do tricks that doesn't permanently damage anything to some degree that interferes with your day. And then, you know, like making your car where it won't start, and then magically it starts. Well,
and that falls into the category of a curse?
Yeah, because it's a curse is essentially a demonic effect. Like if a witch puts a curse on you, it's not her doing it. She's sending a demonic hitman to carry some evil act out on you. And sometimes
I've got a legion at me then. My God.
Chad, it was refreshing because he said that I pretty much have to do this prayer every day. And I asked him, hey, what prayer did you come up with? I told him I was saying, which is on the site, both of them. I was saying a breaking curses prayer that I drafted on my own from an original prayer that was specifically for breaking curses. And I say that one every day. And I even said it to a counselor friend of mine. He says, oh, I think you're going a little bit overboard there. And when I heard Father Chad say that, I was like, all right, an exorcist said that. So no matter how much we're in this work, we still get some validation. Like when I used to talk to, you know, John Zaffis in early 2000, late 1900s, 1999. And sometimes you have to talk to somebody who might have experienced something that's extraordinarily not probable for the person who does a few cases, but someone has a higher profile.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. You know, I'd actually written the Warrens some time ago when I realized you guys know I named the shadow people and the Hat Man phenomenon, and when I was zeroing in on the Hat Man and what he was and who he was, I was like, holy crap. And I have thousands of emails from all over the globe about this guy. I'm like, I have got to reach out. So I reach out, and Zaffis writes me back, and I was living in Australia at the time, and he's like, well, you know, let's chat sometime. It's like, well, to make a phone call overseas, it was just so, it was really nice of them to, you know, to take the time, but I never did get to have the conversation with him because every time I took a step forward to delve into the topic, I am not kidding you, friends, family, they're like, Heidi, whatever you're looking into, stop. I can't sleep. I'm having bad luck. And I'm like, they just knew it had to do with something I was doing. I'm like, well, say a prayer. I mean, I'm trying to work here.
Yeah, protection metals does help. St. Benedict metal. I mean, we tell people put that on if you want to try to, we'll just say ease your sleep paralysis. Sometimes they put it on. They have to do other things to get it off of them. And then they put that on like closing the gate. And the miraculous metal, especially if it might be sexual in nature, because the purity of Mary and her humility and, you know, or we'll just say her bright white.
Well, we're talking about what we do to protect ourselves before we go someplace.
Yeah, but I wear synthetic metal and a miraculous metal and Farah.
Okay.
too. But the other prayers are all the prayers that I say to protect us on a daily level, besides those practices of, weekly confession and all that, sacramentals and sacraments. They're on that website. Helpfully.
So something that Farah said that really has me thinking, okay, I am just known for the shadow people Hatman thing. And you said you didn't feel like you were a demonologist, or you didn't call yourself a demonologist prior to that. I know I'm dealing with demons. Does that make you a demonologist just because you're kind of addressing the issue or the topic, or how's that work?
I put 7 types of demonologists in a blog up to try to define it, because, honestly, in the church, they don't use the term demonologist. I don't know how Adam Bly ended up with that title called by the, like to avoid that.
Yeah, they don't like that kind of language.
I think they kind of adopt.
They don't? Oh.
They don't. No,
yeah, they wanted to call
because it refuses the baptism, which dissolves the curse of original sin, and it takes the focus off of Christ. When you say, oh well, what you do, you're a demonologist. Instead, we they like the term spiritual warfare, Christologist, evangelism, that sort of thing, because they prefer to keep the focus on the positive, and rightly so. And it's what do in our lay ministry, we want to basically, we don't want to catch the dolphins and all the little octopi. We want to catch everybody. We want to throw the net far and wide, and we want to bring as many people out of the dark as we can.
Amen.
And if we go around, with robes and serious faces and speak, loftier than stone, chances are that a lot of people are going to think we got our heads stuck in some candelabra a little bit too high. And
oh my gosh, I hear you.
We can't do that. I am a barefoot, strange, tree hugging Franciscan, and I'm not. I know that God made me for a specific purpose, and it's not. It just I know that there's a reason that we use the terminology we do, and it is basically, Heidi, to affect the majority of people, to let them know that who we are, we're real people.
Yeah. And I
reject anyone for any reason.
I think that is highly important. There are too many people who, once they start delving into these more spiritual topics, I have a hard time talking to them, because they do speak lofty and thuses and thous, and I'm like, they turn even me off. I'm like, I'm a human being, and I want to present myself as such so people can relate to me and be more apt to ask questions than to be turned off. So we have to present ourselves as we are.
Good point. And I think that in our search for God, sometimes that our desire to, attain goals or a greater level of intent or holiness, I think sometimes we separate ourselves from, or I should say we separate too much of ourselves instead of embracing the self that God gave us. And I think that is where we have a disconnect, and that God doesn't ask all of us to be choir boys or priests or bishops, or we're each created individually so that our beautiful kneecap fits somebody's knobby leg femur.
Yeah, I hear you.
We're different parts.
Right.
So we all can't be Plato or Aristotle or Rachmaninoff or Picasso.
Though they are awesome, though. I love them.
Oh.
I have a question for you. This is I've spoken to others who dabble in these things that you both do, and one element that I learned is that supposedly demons cannot read your mind. However, once a person has been met with darkness, they fear the day they will ever be met with it ever again, and they think because they have such fear, the darkness will see that fear and come back. So which is it? Can demons really read your mind, and can your fear of them coming back actually attract them back to you?
Well, let's take it one step at a time. No. It is not possible. It is not possible, and it is not. Right. Even if you are unbaptized, all right, you are still a child of Adam. You are still a child of Adam. There is no way, because you are a physical being born into this world. Your thoughts are between you and your creator, God.
Exactly.
There's no demon that can cross that barrier.
I tell people this. I do.
The people that are concerned about this most often are the ones that, have something to fear, that I'm oppressed, and they give this illusion with their psychological battle that they can read their minds by inserting the thought, because they're good at temptation, and when they oppress, they can actually talk and they can hear them audible. So, I mean, most of the time, demonic activity is just louder and bigger from what it was before. Even manifestations, moving car keys to moving refrigerators.
Yes, they're impressive. The one element that I think kind of confuses people and makes them believe that their fear will allow these things to come at them, like they could hear their thoughts or something, is that they can give them nightmares. So I think the nightmares sometimes get them to feel like, well, they're inside my head already. But nightmares are a whole different ballgame. How do you guys classify nightmares?
Well, we didn't finish answering the second part of your
question. Go for it. Oh, God, let's go there. Go for it.
Because I think this is an important topic to address. People. Oh, yeah. First of all, I think the people that you're talking to definitely need to hear that demons cannot hear people's thoughts. Right. And fear, okay, we all have fears, okay? Does that attract demons? No. Demons aren't necessarily interested in you, especially, if you're doing what they want. You either come from two places. You come from a place that, I'm going to put God first in my life, or you come from a place, I'm going to take care of myself first. Those two places that you come from, if you're putting yourself first and what you want and everything else, demons aren't going to bother with you. You're already doing what you need to do to get you to hell. Sorry, it's a fact.
It is, yeah.
If you put God first, you can be scared all you want, but your guardian angel is going to stand right there and be batting 1,000 trying to keep them off you.
Yep.
So, people, you have nothing to fear. Nothing to fear whatsoever. That battle already got won. Fear does not attract them. Our choices of sin attracts them.
Faith of a mustard seed will smack them down.
Exactly. You got that right.
On a dream.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the dream thingy.
The dreams.
We say that the first thing that you experience when you're beginning to be affected by a demonic spirit is your dreams and anxiety. Both of those seem to enter around the same time. Now, unless you're prone to other psychological ailments, because they'll try to play those up. Like you'll go from mild depression to more severe, maybe even suicidal as they progress. So does your psychological ailments, and the same thing for even physical. You might even have, like we're talking earlier about, new ones show up. But so we have to watch our little meter of the person that starts to go back down to zero, and it's we believe that the demonic was non-existent, but it's always going to be shouting and roaring on the doorstep, and there in the background, when they make a mistake, it's going to come in like that rabbit that never left your garden outside the fence, and then that one day you leave the gate open, or you accidentally damage it with the mower or something, and then it's going to be inside shortly after that. But yeah, the dreams, and then indicating how the dreams is another story, and if you can tell if it's demonic or not. But I think a lot of times the person who has them suspect they are without even us even giving them some tips and hints of how you can tell it's a demonic, induced dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I have to tell you something kind of funny. I would get these demonic dreams and I wouldn't back down. I sometimes have to get up to go to the bathroom and say, I want to go back to it to take them down. And I would go back to the dream.
Those dreams, they said the coma patients, if you research some of that, near-death experience coma patients, it's like that movie with Jennifer Lopez, The Cage, that when they finally battled and won a demon, just like the boy in that St. Louis exorcism case that inspired the movie, last thing he remembers was there was a battle with the St. Michael with the flaming sword. He saw that, and then he wakes up kind of out of this state like he came out of a coma. No memory of all the things that he did from the time that he was initially possessed. And that's dreams can be that way too. You wake up, you didn't dream anything, and then something jars your memory. And it's like, oh my gosh, I had a horrible dream about that. Yeah. Not as though. You usually remember in the morning, and your memory starts to fade as time goes on. But dreams are a fascinating thing anyway. That's why I liked Freddy Krueger when it first came out.
Oh, yeah.
Have those kind of dreams too, and then you win the battle, and then you wake up. It's like, how do you wake yourself up out of your dream? You couldn't exit whenever you're battling it. There's a lot of questions of how they interact with the dream. So,
I feel they try us. I feel they try to find that weakness in you sometimes with these dreams. And it's like, oh, man,
Got to add for protection, and this applies too, is blessing your house. Take the holy water, use frankincense and myrrh, bless your room before you go to bed.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, I think I have to bring that up every show. I am not kidding you.
Keep the shadow visitors out.
And I'll tell you what, there is the number one thing that people can do to protect themselves is fast once a week. I don't care if it's one meal, if it's one day, and you can fast food. You can fast TV. I fasted Facebook the other day for a whole day.
Ouch, that was painful. I'm sorry.
Oh, it was? Because I was like, I got to do that. Oh, no, don't touch that phone.
I like that. So you could choose to fast different things. I dare people to fast their cell phones.
It's really difficult because especially if you don't have a house phone anymore, or if you have a business, because it's like we have like 3 businesses, that we access through our phones and, our ministry and stuff. So it's very, very difficult. If it matters to you to deny your flesh and mortify something that you desire that's pleasurable to you, it matters to God. And that strikes out any demonic influence. So people learn how to fast, and you'll kick them out way quick.
That's what I was telling someone last week. Great thing. He was having a problem with, succubus type experiences. And it's not working. This guy's addicted to porn too, but that doesn't help. But I said, you're going to have to go back to the essentials. Deny your flesh of these things such, eating, not to starve himself to death, but, don't be so quick to get your favorite food and all that. You got to deny yourself, because God expects you to deny yourself of sin, of the flesh, of that nature. And then when you deny food, something that's essential to your daily living, and you fast, and you might get a pain of hunger, I don't know if you call it a pain, but it's not comfortable. And it does aids the fight. And it reminds me of that Bible quote. You might remember that one, Farah. What was that one about? This one takes a fast when the apostles couldn't cast a demon out? Something like that.
Oh, that one was, for whatever reason, the apostles, and I'm sure Heidi's familiar with this, the chapter in the Bible, no, it's not Luke. It might be John, where the disciples had been working to cast a demon out of a young girl, and they finally ran to Jesus, who, of course, was rolling his eyes. And he says, "Hey, Master, we can't get this one out. We can't get this one out. You got to come help us." And he says, "Sometimes these ones can only be cast out by fasting and praying."
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
So you combine the power punch of just, fasting and, making a morning offering that, God, this is what I'm going to do for you. Now, if you combine that with additional praying, you've got a 1-2 punch.
So true. So true. So I'm fascinated with, there's so many people that getting into more of the daily cases that pop up, a lot of people are having issues around 3 a.m. What the heck is the deal with the witching hour? I mean, this is a real thing. It just seems like people will wake up, they're having a nightmare, they hear something or something's creeping up on them. Why is that?
It's a mockery of the Trinity. Satan loves it. It's like it's his funny time because he knows that God created our bodies on a specific circadian rhythm, that we would rise with the sun and we would settle down with the departing of the sun. And at our deepest opportunity for our bodies to be healing and quiet and our angels watching over our spirits, the little devils are like right there poking us going, "Ha ha ha, you thought you could sleep."
And the 3 a.m. And that's when they go to scratch you. It's 3 scratches. That's the mocking.
I even thought that if we had that darkness and that I don't know what you call it, plane or time zone, and it didn't leave that 3 a.m., I would think manifestation would just keep growing and growing and growing. That's just a theory, because we find out it seems that the sun is on the farthest side of the planet, at that phase. But yeah, the theology does seem to be what it's to do with 3 a.m. is the hour, as we figure that the veil between this world and the hellish one is at its thinnest. 3 p.m., the Blessed Mother in the Orthodox Catholic old teachings, they said that she assumed into heaven at 3 p.m. Jesus died on the cross at 3 p.m. So you start to say, hey, and he assumed into heaven at 3 p.m. And there's a lot of prayers that you're supposed to say at 3 p.m., Chapel of Divine Mercy of, Sister Faustina in the early 1900s and some of those others. But, so we know there's a significance on the flip side, and Satan likes to do opposites, and that is the witching hour. That's when the Satanists have their mass, their black mass, not at midnight. That's an old Celtic one or something. But that's a big difference. Doesn't
it seem like there's an increase of evil things going amok? And I mean, like, purposely demonic entities. I remember a couple of years ago, I live in Chicago, and there was a newspaper article that said the Catholic Church was having an emergency training of exorcists because they were so overrun and overwhelmed with the amount of calls. Have you noticed this influx as well?
I'd say. And
I think it's more than just an influx, my dear. What it is I think that because of the ability for people to get their hands on occult items, cursed objects, and the fascination with all things occult, every kind of magic, it's so easy for people to invite sin in, and their choices lead them to attachments. And they don't trust a friend. They immediately call the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is like, well, okay, so you're Methodist, let's talk to your pastor, but I don't want to talk to him.
Right.
Pastor, it's like, I don't want him knowing.
Yeah.
We got to get to our next break. You guys are listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander, and we will be right back. Welcome back, everybody. You're listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander, and I have Kenneth and Farah Deel, the Real Deals here. Go to therealdeals.com. That's double E for both words. And we're just chatting it up, just chewing the fat, having a good old time. And I forget, where did we leave off? But I wanted to hold on. There's a question here. Okay. Oh, people want to hear some of your creepy stories, which I get it. So you've come across people who have been possessed. So tell us of some of these cases that you guys have come across that have been the most, difficult.
Let's talk about the more recent ones, sure, I guess. That's probably more appropriate since we did them together.
Well, to tell you the truth, that it's easy to talk about cases because there's so many of them, Heidi, where, people are in shock to realize, because what they see on TV isn't real. Whether they're looking at Linda Blair spewing pea soup out of her nose or her head turning around, it's not real. Now, ever should they walk into Walmart and be sitting there playing on their little cell phone, and the person in front of them head starts switching and just, going all over the place, and they're thinking, okay, somebody's doing the Macarena, well, I need to get out of here, get out of my line. And all of a sudden they start frothing on the ground and look up at them and speak in some kind of language they've never heard. That would, get everybody to run screaming.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's not the norm.
No.
And consequently, the subject of, people that are possessed is so sensitive, and it is held so close to the vest by the Catholic Church. They really don't want it sensationalized, because it's not like a popcorn movie like Star Wars, where everybody goes, oh, come on, let's go look at the MK Ultra person, or, the person that just, all of a sudden just...
Or Timothy Lear experiment.
I know, let's go look at Jeffrey Dahmer in a cage.
Yeah.
Not, so, if we share things about some of our experiences, we like to try and help people recognize things and recognize symptoms of, a potentially possessed or a person that has an attachment.
So let's go there, because I think there's a ton.
Yes, and a lot of people have, because there's a lot of confusion, and a lot of people that we know that call themselves demonologists or really want to help people, they're out there in the paranormal field, they make the mistake of calling everything a demon because they don't believe in ghosts. They make the mistake of saying that, oh, yes, I've got the right sage, I've got the right music, I've got the right chant for you because I can fix this for you and it's going to all go away. And they have a magic wand. Now, what they don't take into encounters with people on a daily basis, a lot of people, and according to the diagnostics for psychology, we're not even talking psychiatry, although psychiatry is a pseudoscience and I don't believe it in any way. Better living through medication only in the cases of severe pain, severe illness. A lot of people are mental. What do I mean by mental? I'm mental, okay? The degrees of mental, shall we say, difficulty in dealing with daily life is usually suspect when there are, shall we say, bipolar emotional swings, behaviors that are self-depreciating, self-effacing, or harmful. Now, that could be anything from addiction to, you could have, a case that calls us and, the person won't stop sleeping around. And it's like, I think this person's possessed because it doesn't matter, they're obsessed with sex. And then you come to find out that the person, was molested from, the age of 2 to about 12. And they're acting out because they don't feel loved because the person that they're with isn't cuddling them and then smacking them and beating them and raping them. So they're not receiving love from their partner. That's what I'm talking about, mental. So this person may look and act like, they're out of their mind, they're possessed, but there's so much more that goes into a case, folks, that it's easy to say, yes, this person has an attachment. They're talking mumbo jumbo in their sleep, and then all of a sudden they're normal. Are they? Do they have a real attachment, or do they have a mental stress, a spiritual wound that is going to take time to heal? Or are they seeing things because of the result of their dabbling with minor light witchcraft that are coming to visit them, and it's causing them nightmares? So they've got a combination of a wound and invitational, black, evil little cockroaches coming to visit them. So for us to talk about some of the creepiest, horrific things, all we can do is say, hey, people, there's so many of them. It's like, where do we start? We've got dictionaries of them. When
we went over, it was just the interview, and then I was pretty sure by the phone interview, and that's what I really am glad, with the help of the Holy Spirit and so forth, that over the years of that time, we gotten to the point we can get a lot of them figured out on the phone, and a lot of them can be helped over the phone, but not the true possessions. So in this case, we went over and we're just taking the intake, sitting on the porch, sipping lemonade or whatever it was. I was still drinking Pepsi. I hate that stuff. I like it does to the gut. And the girl comes here, the girl in question. My son calls me on the phone. I go around the corner. This is just because there's examples of how it's funny how the devil does his little things, even though there's pointless. And I go around the corner and he's like, oh, what can I have? He's 16. What can I have to eat for lunch? And then I go back around the side of the house, and she's kicking 300-pound men off of her. She's got a couple hefty, guys that live at the house there.
Cheers! There are so many reasons to celebrate. With over 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers to choose from, Total Wine & More has the perfect one for you. And your best friends, and your coworkers, and your siblings, and your partner, and your neighbors, and even your parents. Happy celebrating. Cheers from your friends at Total Wine & More.
To raise a glass, to make a toast, to just say cheers. You're going to need supplies. Total Wine & More is your holiday headquarters for everything you need to plan the perfect celebration. With new bottle buster deals every week and expert staff to help, Total Wine & More makes it easy. This week, get an extra special price on 750 milliliter Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. Find more details at TotalWine.com. Total Wine & More, your holiday headquarters for gifting and entertaining. See store for details.
Father and an uncle.
Yeah.
So I'm like, where's my
this little girl might have been 85 to 90 pounds.
So I got drawn into the fight, and so we're battling this thing. It occurred later. too. So that was one of the symptoms already revealed, but we already had her turn on the phone. And you got to get that under control. You just can't leave them there. Oh, let me go run and get a priest. In case of emergency, break glass. That's one of the reasons why people shouldn't enter this stuff unless they are prepared to do that spiritually, we more say. It's a psychological and a spiritual battle. But
I'm curious if when you guys tackle certain things, like I tackle at a distance, I don't get my hands dirty like you guys do. I sometimes wish I did in the face of shadow people, hat man and stuff, but I'm like, I don't think that's my place to do that sort of thing. But when I get bad luck after giving someone advice over the phone, over the radio, or by email, I take it as a compliment, like, oh, I really ticked off the dark side this time. I'm like, they hate my guts. Feelings are mutual. And I'm like, well, I must be doing something right because, I just know. And sometimes the people that you're helping, they're like, whoa, things really heated up there for a second when I sent this email to you. And I'm like, take it as a compliment because they know their time is limited. Do you get that?
Yeah, you got to that's why you have to say those daily prayers after you've been on the phone or even email them.
Yeah.
About 12 years ago, I had this other denomination, I can't remember what it was, and he contacted me in an email and says, hey, I have a group of prayer meeting friends, and they meet, and there's about 15 of them, and we want to pray for cases that you work on. Oh, sure. And so I gave him a name of a possession case I was working on. We'll just say his name's Tom.
Yeah.
And they began praying for him, and I didn't keep in touch, but I thought, we contact him and see how, I'll tell him how things are going on that case. So I actually saw that, he emailed me, and he's saying it's just pretty sad. He says, is there any, have you ever heard of a demonic spirit affecting people or just praying for a case? You're just praying for it. You live in the same state or anything like that. He says, because everybody, the whole prayer team's broken up, all of them. He says some of the relationships are, not talking to each other and thinking about separation. Cars broke down, all of this stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh. It's like, I said, are you guys praying for yourselves? And
domino effect.
I can't assume that anybody knows that. And just praying for them, emailing them, meddling in any way.
You got to be on it. You have to. I do something I call picture prayers. I wrote a book called Picture Prayers, and it's like I don't know when I'm not praying. Honestly, it's like I think all day long I feel I'm in prayer and I'm in communication with God. So that's how I go about my days. I find it to be there's this phenomena out there that I'm really upset about, and I was taught that there is this time of innocence when you're a kid. God's protecting you until you become confirmed. And I have received many emails from kids or people who were kids when they were first approached by demonic beings and really have had like a lifetime of issues with these things. What do you think is going on? Why are kids being targeted? How are they able to gain access to them?
Well, the number one access that children have is through a lack of protection or an invitation by the adults. Because a child is born into this world under the protective wing of the mother or father, whoever has legal right. Or if the child has been abandoned, whoever signs on to take, adopts and has legal right over that child. Now, a lot of people have difficulty believing in generational spirits. A lot of places call them generational curses. Children have, if they're not baptized and if they are not brought up, and even sometimes if they are brought up in loving homes with loving, supportive adults, they're targets right away because they are so vulnerable because of the sins of the mom and dad that they are continuing to choose. It invites all these little cockroaches to find out what they can get away with. And then they send 2 friends and call 2 more friends. And the children, being as inquisitive and sweet and innocent as they are very easily misled.
Makes sense. It's so disgusting. I've had people who've written me as young as 3 years old having memories of just being battered by demons, and I just I don't even know what to say. I'm like, that's horrible. It's like, where's the protection? Yeah. But where's that element of innocence that I mean, I don't know what the Catholic Church teaches, but are you taught that, like, they're under that protective spirit of God up until a certain age?
That came up recently, and it depends. When they're baptized, they become a member of, the body of Christ. The Holy Family is now your Adam and Eve, and so there's added protection with that. And when you use holy water and all those sacraments, they'll have more meaning. It's a strange thing. It has to do with the sins of the parents and baptism and all that stuff, which, it frees them of the sins of their parents.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Into a fallen world, Heidi.
No.
And the leader of the fallen world is the Prince of the Air. And he's been given dominion here. People have to remember, though, the battle's already been won.
Oh, for sure. I always tell people there's something to be said about the human potential, the human spirit, and God. Because if these things could have taken us out a long time ago, they would have done it. But they can't. They cannot do it. Moving. What's that?
The story about Sister Magdalena of the Cross. She, at an early age, desired to be so holy that she'd be, honored and revered and venerated by everybody in this life and in the next. And it turns out that later on it was revealed when she was discovered, of her dark secret, that she had made a deal with the devil at the age of 5. So sometimes kids mature more into the age of reason instead of just being by default 7 years.
That's true.
Number 7.
That is so true.
Well, there, isn't there?
There's so much that's going on in this world. I tell people it's not just a possibility you'll be met with something dark. It's a threat. It's a threat. It is so active. People have to be on their P's and Q's because this is not a joke. This is an everyday battle, and I don't care what color skin of this the things that are presenting themselves to them. If it's an alien being or whatnot, the aliens that are showing up are not the good guys in general. The ones that are being portrayed in the movies, they're demonic. Why do they leave in the name of Jesus? If you say that, why do they leave if they're not?
Exactly. Why do they run and turn tail?
Oh, gosh, yes.
That's just masquerade, too.
But, I wanted to address a question you asked earlier real quick, because I know we're short on time. A lot of people that get into, thinking, well, I'm going to go investigate and I'm going to help people, et cetera, et cetera. And then they talk about, wow, I came home and, this happened and my car got stolen and, my wife decided to leave me for my friend and all this horrible stuff. Man, I must be doing the right thing, man. I must be working for God. No, wrong. No, that's one of the first signs that you have meddled into some place that you have no business meddling. Yeah. 2, you do not either have the proper authority to be sticking your nose in it, or your prayers are the result of the choices that you have made.
Thereof.
Exactly. If you have not turned away from past sins and made as best to your ability remuneration to the people that you've offended, that stuff follows you around like Linus with his dirty blanket. And you need to pick up on that and go, oh, I can mess with this one. Because your guardian angels, they don't stand down, but God allows them for the sanctification of your soul to come back to him to be messed with.
So true.
That's the way people that are stubborn will go back to or go to them for the first time.
Yeah.
So, God allows you to come back.
Yeah. What do you guys think of? Okay, now I don't know if you've seen this. Well, there's actually like 4 videos or something of this Dutch businessman who has come forward, who was part of this group of elite people who kind of manipulate the whole world economy. And he's like, I couldn't go through with what they were wanting me to do. And then there's Bohemian Grove, where this strange ritual that takes place just out of San Francisco, where all of these world power people go and they do this really strange ceremony that seems very Satanistic, and the satanic groups around the country. And I've met even ex-military guys who said that they were told to participate in these satanic rituals, and the Dutch businessman as well. He was told to kill children. And I'm like, there's so much that is indicating that our world governments, it seems so weird and far-fetched, but are actually involved in satanic ritualistic things. Have you heard this? And what do you think about that?
Wow, I can get political on this one. Yeah, that's one of Dad's expertise that I was talking about, one of his three things. Mm-hmm. When he talked politics, he was talking about what people call conspiracy theories. But he's been passed away for 3 years now, Farah?
Yeah.
He's passed away now, and we see that all this stuff he was talking about and the books he's reading is all happening. And then we're all supposed to go, it's just a conspiracy theory. It's like all that stuff was right. Well, I knew about the Masons and all that stuff, because when we run into Freemason cases, it has to be dealt with. It can't just be ignored. What
are you finding with Freemason cases? What's going on with them?
The Masons is also, it's like this ancient order, evolved into what they call the Freemasons now. They put a claim as though it's Hiram the builder, of Solomon. Right. You have Crowley and these others that actually link him to that occult magic, even going back to I can't believe I just forgot the word. I was going to say apocrypha. I was like Kabbalah. And
okay.
Thing, but yeah, that gets kind of deep with this ancient mystical magic side, and but it's the eye in the triangle type symbol that goes back. They actually found the eye in the triangle symbol in Egyptian ruins.
Yes.
They're very old, and they have an obsession with ancient Egypt anyway.
Yes.
The cult of it, and in the Templars, if you watch some of the documentaries that are not put forth by a church or something, they understand that the Templars really were pagans pretending to be Christians, because they carved pagan symbols into cells, and it's all matched up, and they weren't tortured. They were, just say they were interviewed by 3 priests who were experts in psychology and, very pious. But those, anyway, this can really branch off a lot, but the Freemasons is the true story seems to go back to the great grandson of King Herod, the one who murdered the innocent babies trying to kill Jesus, and they were just tired of seeing the Christian movement grow. I think it was like 60 A.D. around the time that St. John, the young St. John, around the time he died. That the population was more and more increasing to be Christian, so they called him that imposter Jesus, and that's why you get this Da Vinci Code. He was a member of what was called the New Templars, which were Freemasons again. If he put something in the paintings that someone discovered later on, he did it because he secretly believed, even if he pretended to be Catholic, that Jesus was an imposter. But that's where it began, and the Temple of Jerusalem was the name of it. So they used the cover of a Jewish church, Jewish temple, to do their meetings and all that. If you go to the Scottish Rite, you'll actually see the upside-down inverted pentagram with a circle around it on the back of the throne or whatever chair that is that the Grand Master sits in. So in some levels, they don't even hide it.
Oh, it's so scary. There's so much. It's like, the things that are coming forward, and it's just like all connecting and making sense. And whistleblowers are stepping forward saying they're killing children, they're sacrificing them. I'm like, and somebody that I met that's on the down low that doesn't work for the government anymore said I couldn't sacrifice people anymore. It's all satanic. I'm like, wow, what are we talking about here? It's scary. Ugh.
Heidi, they're doing it every day legally in abortion clinics, and they're selling the baby's body parts. Something that is just like so horrific and so horrendous, and it's such an unpopular topic. Nobody wants to talk about it. But heck, if you find a single cell on Mars, it's life. Let's sacrifice everything and make sure we put it in a petri dish and get it to grow.
You are so true. A question for you, and this is the topic that I cover. And I know that you guys, I've had some communications with our groups online with Facebook. Huh. How do you categorize the Hat Man? What have you come across and the people that have experienced them? How do you categorize the Hat Man, what he's up to and who he is?
Hat Man, I've been thinking about this for a long time, like you have.
Yeah.
We find that period costumes, outfits, or whatever, because we have the ones that are shaped like Oscar, the trophy, not the Grouch.
Yeah.
And you just see head and shoulders. You don't see, a collar, a cuff, a hairline. You don't see long hair when you see a lot of them. And then we suspect it might be humans, but I think when they're darker in the dark room, they are human minions of, Satan. Where did Anton LaVey go when he passed away and entered into the next life? He's helping his demonic masters bring down probably, relatives that came from his family tree or in the house or temple that he worked in, so they're working behind the scenes. They're not going to hell at this time. They're getting pulled directly out or never went there with. But yeah, I think that, I said, what would we see if we saw the Three Stooges? We see three men. We see Curly with his bowler hat, and these hats, these fedoras. I think that some of them has to do with period hats, but you would be more suspecting if it had something to do with some dark cult, like the Hat Man. You remember the voodoo? They wear a top hat. Now you might be relating, to a case that has voodoo involved, or it could be something with the people involved aren't cursed by voodoo as much as maybe a member of the family was, their parents were. Maybe it's a generational line or whatever. Maybe it was. I don't know. But
the glowing red eyes when he does show his eyes, the glowing red eyes.
That solidifies a cult. Anytime you see glowing red eyes on it, that says it's a cult, and that would be voodoo, some of the darker black magic, Satanism, not necessarily what people call Wicca and that sort of thing.
Oh, but he'll introduce himself sometimes as Scratch, the Old Norse term for the devil.
It's
terrible.
We should talk longer about this topic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's disturbing stuff. And wow, does he hate me?
Yeah, it seems like it's been a negative thing every time, except for the rare case where it seemed like a ghost. But that one's when it had period clothes on. And it was just like you weren't seeing it it wasn't pitch black and silhouette so much even. It wasn't darker than the dark room. When it was, we consider a ghost. Because you don't look like yourself when you're helping the minions unless they're having you portray that masquerade like, oh, I'm a child and Mrs. His mommy. Will you help me? So,
scary stuff. Well, we've got less than a minute. I want to give you guys a chance to put out your information if you got any events going on or how people could reach out to you.
All right. YouTube, we have our archives of our show. The Real Deals is on youtube.com/The Real Deals. And that's also how you can find us on Twitter, too, twitter.com/TheRealDeals or @TheRealDeals. CatholicDemonologist.com is where you find our books. SwordsOfSaintMichael.org is in a work in progress. You can check that out later on. And, of course, TheRealDeals.com will take you to our radio and our TV page. We don't do radio anymore. Now we just do live broadcasts like Facebook, YouTube.
All right.
Live.
Well, I want to thank you guys for coming on. We've got to wrap this show already. This went fast. There was so much to talk about, but you two hold the line so we could chat a little bit more after the show here. But thank you so much for coming on, Farah, Ken, Deel.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yes, this is a lot of fun.
Bless you.
Right. Yeah, God bless you, too. All right, you guys, we've come to the bottom of another cool show. Remember, you can catch me here every Friday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. You've been listening to me, Heidi Hollis, the Outlander. Remembering always, if it's weird, we're here. Good night, everybody.
There are so many reasons to celebrate. With over 8,000 wines, 3,000 spirits, and 2,500 beers to choose from, Total Wine & More has the perfect one for you and your best friends and your coworkers and your siblings and your partner and your neighbors and even your parents. Happy celebrating. Cheers from your friends at Total Wine & More.
To raise a glass, to make a toast, to just say cheers. You're going to need supplies. Total Wine & More is your holiday headquarters for everything you need to plan the perfect celebration. With new bottle buster deals every week and expert staff to help, Total Wine & More makes it easy. This week, get an extra special price on 750 milliliter Kendall Jackson Chardonnay. Find more details at TotalWine.com. Total Wine & More, your holiday headquarters for gifting and entertaining. See store for details.